welcome to No Movies in Hell. I'm Chris Geiger.
I'm LaQuas Scott, and today we are reviewing Boy Kills World.
Which came out back in the spring.
Yes, yeah, and it is currently on Hulu as of this recording, so...
Yeah, it wasn't out in theaters for very long. I don't think it got a huge rallying audience to keep it around for a while, but I thought it was cute.
It was very unexpected. Like, I actually thought that this... I guess the trailer didn't really sell it as kind of like a graphic novelesque action film. Yeah, upon watching it, very interesting to see like Bill Skarsgård and a host of other folk. And yeah, it was just kind
Monaghan?
of, yeah, Michelle, is it Michelle Monaghan? Well, Famke Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just kind of like this weird, twisted, like dystopian, I want to say fairy tale, but action revenge movie.
I love action revenge as a genre. And I like H. John Benjamin a lot.
Okay.
Like, he's the voice of Bob from Bob's Burgers. He's the voice of Coach McGurk from Home Movies. He's the voice of Archer.
Okay.
So I'm a big fan of his. And then to have him voicing the main character. And I also like Bill Skarsgård. I think he's been doing interesting things lately.
Yes, I agree. I like the films that he does because I feel like he's one of the very few that take risks in his roles. So yeah.
Yeah. So this was fun. Not super deep, right? But entertaining.
Yes.
Let's go to the slides. So we came in pretty close on this. I did cinematography as a 2.5. I think I just like the action sequences a lot.
Okay.
I'm surprised, like looking back, because I rated this back in the spring, I'm surprised I didn't give it a higher Rater's Choice, like a 2.5 Rater's Choice. Because I did like the advertising part of it, where she's like, do you know how hard it is to get a children's cereal to sponsor national death competition?
It reminded me of so many, kind of like a John Wick meets like Scott Pilgrim, in which Bill Skarsgård was in the like latest John Wick. Yeah, very action, but like comic book-y. And yeah, the silliness of, a children's cereal sponsoring quite literally like death matches.
You were saying before we started recording, you felt like maybe this year wasn't the greatest year for movies.
Kind of looking comparatively to the last 2 years, I feel like, yeah, this year was kind of a letdown. And in thinking about what other films are left for the year.
Mm.
And yes, it could be because of the writer's strike last year. There's re-releases in the theaters too. So I know that like Interstellar was re-released for the 10-year anniversary, and it's actually doing pretty well. There hasn't been many originals, and if there are originals, kind of like this movie, but there are others like dramas and like romantic comedies. But they're not in the theater for that long, beyond like its opening weekend. And then it's like, in this case, perfect example, it wasn't in the theater long, and then I just so happened to catch it on Hulu. And even reading a couple days ago that, the number one movie on Disney Plus right now is Alien, the latest Alien, so Alien Romulus, which I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's how people are discovering it through, Disney's streaming service. So, and I would have to say, we're probably not going to review that movie, but I thought it was excellent and probably one of my favorites this year. Yeah, and looking at kind of future forecasting the films for this year, this has been pretty soft.
Do you feel like part of it is the writer's strike? I also feel like the pandemic, we're still suffering from pandemic issues. I think when the theaters came back, there was a dearth of movies that were willing to release because even though the theaters were open, people just weren't coming back. Movie studios didn't want to release their big stuff yet, so they sort of held it. And then it came out and it was all compressed. And then now we're seeing sort of the dearth of movies because we had like this huge glut, and now we're waiting for things to pace out. Normally, things are still fragmented. Like during that time when the theaters were starving for new content, they sort of figured out, hey, if we play these old movies, people will still come. And they like, it's actually a pretty reliable business model if you don't put it in your biggest theater. If you put it in one of your smaller theaters, you run it for just a couple of screenings or a couple, like 1 week, and you can fill that smaller theater consistently with those older movies. And now that they figured that out, that's better to them than gambling on something that's new, a smaller movie that's new.
Yeah, I could see that. I feel like television, they're more risky when it comes to new content, when it comes to new actors, when it comes to new directors. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, it could be a symptom of the pandemic. It could be just the fact that they didn't make money and are trying to figure out the best ways to make money. And then also like these holiday films. So, you know, 4th of July is supposed to be big, Memorial Day is supposed to be big. So these holiday appended films with which, you know, just a couple weeks ago you had Wicked and then you had Moana come out the next week. It's challenging. So see how it goes, but it's like, yeah, kind of hope to see more original films out a little longer in theaters before, you know, it's kind of shelved for a little bit, found distribution, and then it's streaming. Which streaming's not bad, but you know.
Yeah, there's a movie out right now that's showing on the on the AMC website called Werewolves. I don't know if you
Ooh.
have seen that listed, but that seems poorly timed.
Well, from what I hear of that film, it's actually crowdsourced. So a lot of folks got together to make this film, and so they found the distribution, and so I think that's the reason why we're seeing it now as opposed to like Halloween. But there's also like the Wolfman coming out in early next year. So yeah, it's like it's crowdsourced, which is great. Timing is this is probably like that lull between um you know, it's probably not gonna get nominated for anything in terms of awards season. But uh, you know, it's an opportunity for people to see something like that now. I feel like Poor Things came out around this time last year too. So yeah.
It seems oddly timed. It's not Halloween, and it's also not like I expect horror movies, and maybe Werewolves is not a horror movie. Maybe it's just fantasy, but I feel like it's horror. And wouldn't that come out like more in like January, February, like Wolfman? Maybe they don't want to go up against Wolfman. Although if I see that trailer one more time, I might leave the theater.
Yeah, it's the new oh my gosh, that James
Yes.
McAvoy film with which they showed
Yes.
the trailer
Speak
like
no evil.
yes, yeah. I
How
haven't
could
been
you
excited.
forget? Oh my God.
Everything is a mush, but I do remember that trailer was out for so long.
I think the trailer was out like 5 times longer than the actual movie was out,
Yep.
which I'm not compelled to see Wolfman at all, although I do like the woman who played Ruthie in the Ozarks,
Okay.
even though I didn't watch the last season of Ozarks. But it's on my list to get to at some point. But now it's been so long that I feel like I have to go back and rewatch the first couple of seasons, and which is why I haven't watched the last season yet, because I don't. Who's got time for that? Do you have anything to plug in this episode?
Nope, not really. I guess I just gave my 2 cents about how, you know, this year, the films this year.
You went to Sundays on Fire today, is that right?
I did.
And how was that?
Oh, it was great.
All right, so that's something to plug. All right, well, thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.